how's it going? It is I, your boy TJ. Good morning, good morning. Yeah, we are here, and today we are talking about property and real estate, and this is what we talk about on here. Yes, Monday to Friday, we are talking about property. We do property, and what do I mean by that? We're a business that buy property property is real estate. Yeah, it is real estate. And we buy these for rental purposes. We do it in the company M5 Property Addicts, and we do it alongside others. And every day, Monday to Friday, I am here talking about how can we improve this game of property? How can we improve the game of the property? Sometimes it's educational stuff. Sometimes it's thought-provoking stuff. And sometimes it's just us having fun. What's the whole reason of building this thing when you can't have fun? So for some of you, if you don't know, my name is Taurai Jack. And if I'm not doing what I'm doing now, which is talking to you, I write books, and I've written the book from Property Mogul from Bed Day to Property Mogul. And this book is available. You can literally catch it on our website or on our Facebook page. And if I'm not doing that as well, I do property investments. So I buy properties and I rent them out, and that's the investment component part of it. But today it is Thursday, so we speak about Thursday legacy, and this is one of my pain points. I got many pain points, right? But this one here is one of my pain points because it sits very closely dear to my heart in terms of how this is viewed with many, or actually how we actually even view it, right? So for some people, it's totally absent in our minds in this thing. So I want to talk to you today about, actually, let me find out from you, where are you watching me from? Give me a city, give me a town, tell me where you're watching me from. I would like to hear from you. And today is Thursday. It is Thursday Legacy. That's what we talk about. And I'm just going to jump into it. And out of it, I'm going to say to you guys, well, today is a Thursday. The topic that we want to talk about, it's a question that I want to ask you. And with that question, I do have actually a story behind it that I'd like to share with you. Again, I'd like to provoke your mind, especially in the month where we're in. This is our Heritage Month. And yesterday, my son is 12, and he had an exercise that he needed to do to kind of like go back into time, find people that have created legacy from a political perspective, and who were they, so that they can go and do a research on an individual from the time they were born and possibly from the time that they are dead, and what form of legacy have they left out. And it made me to think a little bit of who am I? Who am I? It made me to think. It's not yesterday that this thing started, but it made me to think, who am I? And with that, the big question that I then asked myself, which I want to ask you, that you ask yourself, what legacy am I leaving behind? What legacy am I leaving behind? And I know we're going to start playing the game of, I actually didn't receive any legacy, so, I don't have anything. And I'm not about that. I am not about that. That we need to forget about that. The past is the past. It is what it is. In my book, there's a chapter that I dedicated to my past. And that chapter is chapter 2. And it is called, actually, It Is What It Is, right? Chapter 2 of my book. It is written, it is what it is. Okay? If you've never read my book, chapter 2 of my book, says, it is what it is. Why did I label that chapter? You see, for some of you who might not know, from the time that I was born, my biological father, he left way before I was born. And my mom, biological mom, and then she kind of like dumped me at around about 2 to 3 months. And she left. And I grew up within that space, and, relatives looked after me and things like that after I was found. And I want to stress the fact that life was not easy, but that was my normal, right? And later on in life, now understanding who I am, now trying to understand where do I come from. And I started that journey in my teen, and I went in to find my biological father and things like that. Couldn't find him. Eventually I did. I connected with him, and I realized where I was was a better space of growing up than who he was. So we never chatted, and then until again we chatted again right about when I was just about to turn 30. At that time I was married, and I had I was just married. Yeah, right. So none of my kids were born at that time. Yes, I think so. Right. But no, my firstborn was born, right? Yes, my firstborn was born at that time. And I met him at a restaurant, neutral place, and we kind of like discussed, but you can catch the book to get all the full story of it. But what I want to zoom into you is that I can literally be putting a blame to the fact that, I didn't grow up with my father, so I didn't inherit anything, or I don't have a chance to inherit anything. It is factual. That is factual, right? So I don't know my father, and there is nothing that I'm going to gain from my biological father. And whether he has life policies, whether he's got houses, whether he's got wealth, maybe he doesn't have, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is, I am actually a child out of what they call out of wedlock, right? So for that reason, there is no inheritance for me. Now, some of you come from a nuclear home where actually there is no inheritance as well. Why? Because maybe your father and mother didn't have the financial awareness that you are being exposed to. So they potentially have a house and they're potentially in debt. And likewise, you are also now in debt, right? Or you have a lot of, again, debt is not bad. Debt is good. There is bad debt and good debt, right? So potentially they are in bad debt, right? And they don't know what they don't know. So I can't teach my son what I don't know. I can teach him what I know, right? And if you don't know, then you can't pass it on to the next person. And we're celebrating Heritage Month. And the question that I'm asking myself is, what is the legacy that I am building? The legacy that I'm building for my own brand, and the brand is Taurai Jack. And the second brand that I want to build is the Jack brand, right? So what is it that I'm building? So when I say the brand Taurai Jack, what do I mean by that? I'm still an individual. We've got buildings, we've got street names that have been named after great people, Tambo Mbeki, Nelson Mandela, all of those things. When you see those street names, something resonates with you, like, oh, Julius Nyerere, all of these other guys, legends that have come and gone, and some of them, they are still amongst us. They have left some form of legacy. The other one that I want to speak of, and I know this is going to be controversial, but this is my show, I can talk about it. John Cecil Rhodes. If some of you understand history, you would know that John Cecil Rhodes was a sickly child, came from the UK, and he came to Africa, and he was literally put into a ship. He came here, sickly child, came from a distorted house, and whilst he was here, he started understanding business, and he started whining and dining with the big people of that time, and he created a name for himself. John has been long dead. Cecil Rhodes, he's been long dead. There's a foundation. I know I've got mates that were educated with the foundation of John Cecil Rhodes. I know that he's not a favorite amongst us of some of the works that he did, which was from a colonial perspective. That was the time that he was living in. And he went on to do some radical things. However, from a Southern African history, John conquered all the way from Cape. It's got a beautiful estates, winelands, and all of those things, all the way to Zambia. Like one guy who came from a non-family that is like a family that does not exist, right? He was a bastard, right? kids that are born out of wedlock, they're called bastards, right? Now, with all of that, if you look at it from of his life, and then you're like, let's just take the oppressions that he brought with. But if you look at him from a business mind, how much he conquered from where he was a legend, right? And I want to come back to today life, and I want to ask the question, even though we might throw stones at these people and say they were like, I'm always of the view that what can we learn from these people, right? And for me, I like history. I like to jump into history, reading a lot of autobiographies of certain people, jump in and understand how did they grow up? How did they nurture this? How did they become famous? When they became famous, how did they manage these issues? What made them to be famous? What made them to be legends? Because in there are lessons that we can learn. And in my book, I speak about my adversities of growing up, but I have not let my adversities, I've not left what was bringing me down to say, well, I cannot start my own legacy. It is Heritage Month, by the way. So what is the heritage that you are wanting to pass on? Because the heritage is inheritance, right? And we said it is a culture, right? We spoke about this on Tuesday, but I want to speak to this from a point of legacy. Because if we're not creating something of legacy, right? Because what is legacy anyway? Legacy is something that you give to someone else, right? It's something that you need to be creating. But if you're not creating that, then you can't pass it on. For some of us, we are creating something by default, but we actually don't know what we are creating, right? So let me give you an example. Maybe you like a dope and a chop all the time, so you're always blasé, right? That's the legacy that you're creating. It is a fact. Remember, in legacy, there is no positive or negative legacy. Legacy is legacy. Remember, in culture, there is no bad culture or good culture. Culture is culture. What you have is, that's your culture, right? That's what you have. So I might come to your house and I'm like, I don't eat pap, it's not within my legacy. Doesn't mean that there is something wrong with pap. No, there isn't, because you like it. That's your culture. I come to your house and I'm like, I don't eat biryani because, that's your culture. You can eat it. So there is no right or wrong, right, in cultures and in creating legacy. It's all about what is the path that you choose to create and to lead and to be intentional around it. So I have chosen that I am going to create legacy with a few like-minded people. And this legacy, I want to create it with a few like-minded people. And my legacy that I want to create is passive income. But what about passive income? I want to do it in a property space. I now understand how to buy properties for rental purposes, big buildings. That's what I want to do. I've been doing it at small. So I want to create, right? Legacy can never be there if you don't create it. So I'm a creator. I am creating. Now I'm looking for you to come in to help me to create it. So if you help me to create it, together, me and you, we start creating the legacy. It doesn't matter where we're coming from. It doesn't matter who you are, man, woman, white, black, white, Indian, colored, Chinese, you name it. It don't matter. The fact of the matter is that we are where we are right now, and how do we start moving from there, right? It is what it is. That's what I wrote in my book, that full chapter. I dedicated it to my past, and I'm like, my past, boom, there you are. This is where you sit. I cannot change you. You are the past, but from this day onward, I can change the future. I can change the future. So again, it's not about whether you're 20, whether you're 30 or 40 or 50, you can still change the legacy that you are wanting to be remembered on. That is intentional. It's intentional creation of your legacy. You can decide to stop smoking so that people don't remember you to be the guy that used to smoke. You can stop drinking to not to be remembered to be the guy who used to pooza. All of those things. I'm just throwing out stuff here, right? So for some of you, you've been working hard. You are now an executive at your workplace. You are now a young manager or an elderly manager, whatever the case of. You are now, up there in your business. You've been staying in the same house, and that's potentially going to be the only thing that your kids will have from you, right? There is more. There is more that we can do together. We can buy bigger blocks of flats, complexes, things like that, and assets that will change the course of our generations, or the course of where we are in terms of the legacy. It can be done. We are going to do it whether you're on board or you're not. That's my reality. But I want to also stress the fact that it ain't for everybody. For some people, we're going to say no to. Now, I want to stress the fact that, right, when you are creating legacy, you now actually need to think, how do I do it? So you need to stop to say, okay, how do I create it? That's the first thing. The second thing is the implementation part, which is the difficult part. If I go back to John Cecil Rhodes, when he thought of conquering Southern Africa, he didn't just think, oh, you'd see, I think let me go to Rhodesia. I'm going to call it Rhodesia. I'm going to call it Rhodesia. And then he parked there. No, he didn't. He didn't. He went on to say, well, I'm going to call it Rhodesia. And he went and he conquered it. So there was action. And there was blood on the floor. Kids, women, men killed. And he went on and he conquered it. That was action. He put action into it. He put money behind it, right? There was effort behind it. So he conquered Rhodesia, South, Northern Rhodesia. And I'm talking about Rhodes here because I want you to see that if you think of something, it won't change until there is action into it. So once there is action, it will change. So that's why I'm saying we create it. Once we create it, we'll go out there, we'll conquer it, and then that's the implementation part of it. When we start implementing, that's where we're going to see the results. When the results is there, others, I'm going to give you an example. If you read the history, there was a point when John Cecil Rhodes was stuck, and he went to Britain, to the Queen, and they said, Queen, there's a country that I would like to conquer because there is ABCD, gold or whatever you might mention it. And he wanted support from her. They didn't know who John Cecil Rhodes was at that time. He was a nobody. No name. He was a no-name brand like Pick and Pay, right? But because he had done something and the Queen could verify that, the Queen backed him up. The Queen gave him resources. So what I'm saying is here, let's start to create. Who knows which queen we could be talking to in our nation, in different countries. We can conquer. What stops us to going from other countries and do the same thing? Nothing. So I'm looking for a few people that can come on board on this journey. You could be 5 people coming together, 20 grand, you have your 100,000, okay? That's a minimum. You might be having $1 million rand in your kitty, that's okay. Bring it together, we'll go to work. How do you join? Click on the link before, register, and we'll have a session in next week, Tuesday. We'll talk about it more in depth. But this is what legacy is all about, guys. It's about creating what you want. It's creating what you want. And I'm happy that I can be on this journey with you. So I'll check you out on Tuesday. But for now, I am going to end it here. And I'm just going to want to jump into the comments there. Ntabi saying is in Middleburg. How's it going? Whoop, whoop. And my boy Carlo, he's from Capstata. How's it going? Tumi is from Bloemfontein. Hey, how's it going? And yeah, good to hear from you guys. So yes, from wherever you are, thank you for joining us, and let's do it again. Looks like my day is going to be a busy day today. I need to be out in the streets digging in to see some other good deals. But anyways, God bless and goodbye. Cheers. Bye.